This is going to be City of Port Richey City Council meeting Tuesday, August 25th. At this time, I'd like to invite Reverend Sandra Spaldi for the invocation.
God, our creator of all there is and ever shall be, we ask you to shine your light down of blessings upon us. We ask you to shine your energies for healing for all those who have the COVID. We ask you to protect those who don't. We thank thee for all thy blessings. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mayor Scott Tremblay.
Here.
Vice Mayor William Dittmer.
Here virtually.
Councilwoman Jenny Sorrell.
Here.
Councilman Tom McClary.
Here.
Councilman Tom Kinsella.
Here.
City Attorney James Matthew.
Here.
City Manager Leonard Sossaman.
Here.
And for the record, City Attorney, we can still appear virtually according to the Governor's order, correct?
Yes, it was extended. However, you always could appear virtually as long as a quorum was present. So
Thank you.
even if that didn't go, you still could do it. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I was looking for a motion to approve council minutes.
Motion to approve council minutes. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're going to move on to comments from the general public. I'd like to invite Susan Sullivan to the podium, please.
Mayor, before we start, there was 2 sets of minutes to approve.
Okay.
There was minutes from the regular meeting from 8:11 and the workshop from 8:13.
I thought the motion covered both, but we'll do them separate.
I meant both, but that's okay. You didn't say that in your motion. Oh, okay. Motion to approve the other minutes that I didn't motion for the first time. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Ms. Sullivan, welcome.
Susan Sullivan, 8721 Old Post Road. I've got some questions on the status of the speed humps on Old Post Road. I brought it up in April and want to know where it's gone from there. What are the status of the cameras on Coons Drive and Old Post Road, possibly at the lift station? There's numerous speeders on Old Post Road, and I want to know why there hasn't been any police down in that area lately. We used to see them all the time. We used to talk to them, and they haven't been visible. And then what is the city ordinance for construction in a residential area? We had multiple trucks going into Avila Bay, 5:30 this morning. And the speed limit on Old Post Road is 30 miles an hour for a dead-end street. Main Street and Grand Boulevard in Newport Richey is 25 miles an hour. We have a dead-end street at 30 miles an hour, which nobody abides by anyway. We have multiple people speeding. I witnessed a kid on a dirt bike Saturday riding up and down with a 3-year-old sitting on a gas tank. He kept riding up and down. He started again on Sunday. No respect. They give you the finger. They don't give a shit. They don't own anything.
Ma'am, just please, the best you
Okay.
can with your
I'm
language,
sorry.
please.
I'm
Thank
sorry.
you.
Music is blaring from their cars when they go down Old Post Road, both day and night. What is the ordinance for noise on public streets? And who is enforcing the ordinance, if there is such an ordinance? So those are my questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next person I have for general comment is Bill Phillips.
Good evening.
Good
How are
evening.
you this evening?
Doing very well, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to come and speak to you tonight. Obviously, 3 minutes is pretty short, but I'll do my best. I want to thank the mayor and the city council of Port Richey for the opportunity to speak to you this evening. My name is Bill Phillips, and I reside at 5500 Rivadale Place, number 339 in Newport Richey, Florida, 34652. That's the new Main Street Landings Apartments. I know it's not in the city.
I understand.
Okay. The reason I'm here tonight is I wanted to, just wanted everybody to know I've applied to be your next city manager. I never thought the position would come open again during the remainder of my work career. I applied for it 4 years ago, and unfortunately, I wasn't able to get it.
And can I stop you just for a moment?
Yeah,
And one of the issues that I have is that this is a non-agenda item, which, and,
Yes, sir.
and certainly, right now, there's a process that's taking place or unfolding.
I-
And you're ahead of the process. We're not into the interviews yet or to meet any of the candidates. So, in all fairness, I wanted to ask the council if they want to allow him to go forward, knowing that, I think there's some others that have applied that don't have that opportunity or haven't, before I let him kind of go any further.
Has he applied through the proper process? Or no?
Correct, he has.
So he is the candidate, so that would be allowing him to speak outside of the other candidates.
Correct, that's my only concern. I don't want it to appear unfair since we're going through a certain process.
And that is exactly why I'm here this evening, because I wanted to be out in front of everyone, because you've made your process completely transparent. Very much so like you hired your new chief of police. That was a great job. I saw that. That's what encouraged me even more to apply. And I have gone through your recruitment package, and I followed the hiring consultant and city recruitment package protocol and submitted my qualification documents to Colin Benzinger on the original deadline of August the 7th. There was a subsequent second deadline that was done on the Friday the 21st. So that's the reason I felt as though it was appropriate to come and introduce myself. I live local. If that's an advantage, so be it. I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew of my interest now and before. And I just delivered to the city clerk additional information that I'll be providing to Colin Benzinger, as well as I plan on talking to Colin again tomorrow morning.
Okay.
I've spoken to him 2 times.
Well, what I want to do is, I don't want to,
I recognize it.
and hear me out.
Sure.
We hired a firm to be transparent and to be fair to everybody. I don't think it's fair for the council necessarily to look at materials on one person before it's filtered through the proper channels. Not that I don't want to look at that, but I want to be able to receive it through Colin and through the firm and be able to process it. So
Sure.
with that, what I was going to ask you to do is hold on to that and give it to Colin.
I'll be happy to do
and,
that.
And then we'll follow the proper procedure. And I'm happy that you're here to introduce yourself, but I didn't really want to go any further until that vetting process has been complete, and I think at some point we'll be able to interview the folks off the list. So,
And can I just as a side question, is that the only list you'll consider, is the one that they bring to you?
Correct.
The reason that I came was obviously to make sure that you knew of my interest, because I didn't know how far down you would look to see who all applied. And I didn't want to wait until after that fact happened to make a lot of people aware. Because I've talked to over 100 people in the community and around about my interest in the position. And I've gotten some recommendations and other things. And all I was trying to do was make sure that you had that it was transparent early on. And obviously at some point as a body, you get to consider all and everything because you are the selection committee. And that was the main reason why I came this evening, was to let you know who it was, and then just try to give you some additional information. But I understand where you're at. Obviously, I've been through the process a few times before, both sitting in your chair as well as in other settings from a business standpoint. And all I wanted to do was to let the council know that I'm local and I'm here. And I didn't want to have it happen after Colin does his list. And then if I don't happen to make it, and we've all been through interview processes where we sometimes don't make the cut. But if there are people interested and they find out after the fact and they want to bring it forward, it doesn't.
well, I can tell you that as a council, I don't think we're there yet in terms of how we're going to select and whether or not we're going to consider people from the outside. And so you're premature on all those issues. That having been said, I wanted to thank you for coming tonight, and I appreciate your interest.
Well, I just truly wanted to let you know of my interest in it, and obviously, I'll take my information, and then, but like I said, I have talked to your hiring consultant on 2 occasions. I'll be talking to him again tomorrow. But again, it's just a situation that if you don't bring yourself out, and I didn't want it to be happening after the fact.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you. It's a
Thank
pleasure
Mayor.
meeting you.
Thank you.
The next person I'm going to do the best, it's, is that Pastor Lord?
I'm on there.
Yeah, come on up.
Okay.
That's the roughest I've ever seen you sign, though, Pastor Lord.
Well, you never saw me sign it. I print it. And I should have printed it again. I was talking instead of printing it. I just put my name down. So, yeah, that's why my wife says, anyway, I'm still learning how to, but anyway, Leonard Lord, I've been pastoring at 8114 Leo Kidd Avenue, 25 years last March 12th. And so, Mayor, Council, it's an honor to be here and serve in the city. Before I get into the other things that I believe everyone got these, Sal was kind enough to give those. And so as you see, this year they've chosen, since the park didn't have the bathrooms open, we have before used Waterfront Park, so we could kind of pick up there. It will be at Light of the World Tabernacle, and since you have it, the date is Saturday, September 26th. It's a time to join courageous volunteers from churches and business in Pasco County to make a difference through our CareFest program. So you can contact us. There's the number. If you have projects, it'll begin over at 8114 Leo Kidd Avenue at 8 in the morning. We'll have a breakfast. Then we'll be released to our projects at 9, 12:30. We'll come back for a unity luncheon. So why bring that forth? Years in past, we have painted parks, cleaned up parks. So what we're doing now is looking for projects to send people to, and we like them when they come from Pasco County. We work with the Elder Nutrition Meals on Wheels particularly, and also from the city. Then we know their needs. We like working with code enforcement. So that is that part of it. Wednesday, Commissioner Mariano was at our lunching, and I remind y'all again, and forgive me if I forget, every third Wednesday, we have a free lunch in our fellowship hall where we network the community of how we together can make it a better community. And Commissioner Mariano was saying that the county has funds for people who need roof or air conditions during this time, particularly to contact him, and also for some rent and electric. So if the city, you may know that, we were meeting with him last Wednesday. Also last Thursday, we got to meet with Frank Hyberd, the mayor of Clearwater. I guess he was there from 5 to 12. He just was elected back in. And to his surprise, things had changed so much that in our pastors' meeting there in our luncheon in Clearwater, he was our guest speaker. So we were able to pray with him and encourage him and share some things. And so that's what we want to do here, back up and encourage y'all. So it was good to have the mayor there. Also, the other thing is it says where you come to the Father through Jesus, there's no other way. So I'm concerned about prayer. Biblically, our prayers here are not even sound. They're not prayers. What you ask in my name you receive, and there's no other mediator. So I get grieved every time Jesus is not honored, because it says if you don't honor the Son, you don't honor the Father. Well, God bless you, love you, and appreciate you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Pastor
Council.
Lord.
Bye-bye.
Mr. Mueller, come on up to the podium. Welcome.
Dave Mueller, 5439 Blue Point Drive. I want to thank each of you guys for sitting up there. It's a difficult task, and you got a lot of issues in this town, okay? But I want you to know that I, for one, walk the streets, pray for each one of you guys, and I give God the glory that we have people here willing to take time and effort to do that. And I might suggest it would be beneficial for each of you guys to, walk the street too and meet your neighbors, meet some of the people around here. Because we got some really fantastic people living in this neighborhood, willing to put time and effort in and willing to, spend time making this community a better place. I, for one, am in that boat. And as I walk the streets and pray for you guys, I also meet people that are doing the same thing too. And I believe that together we can make this a better place, and I appreciate your help. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mueller. That's all that was signed up from the general public. Are there any other people by show of hands that would like to speak? Seeing no hands, at this time I'm going to go out of order and take comments from boards and committees. I'd like to invite Linda Rodriguez to start.
Linda Rodriguez, 5917 Lantern Court. Hi. Just coming to you as chairman of the CAC. I'm going to be coming to you once a month after our meetings and give you a heads up of what we're doing. The biggest thing is I gave you a list of the suggested names so far that I've collected off of Facebook, off a couple of our sites off Facebook. So we're going forward with the renaming of the waterfront district. I have the names of the people who suggested that, but I just gave you the names. We have a couple ideas of how to continue to proceed and how to get votes from the residents. And I was wondering if we were wondering, the committee was wondering about flyers on the water bill, how we can go about besides just Facebook, because as we've discussed many times, is Facebook alone is not a good avenue to get to everybody, all the residents in Port Richey, because not everybody uses Facebook. So we'd like to know if there was another avenue that we could also get suggestions and go forward with the renaming, if we could use, like I said, flyers or mail-outs to the residents and the businesses in Port Richey, or, so I just kind of want a direction on how we could go from there.
Thank you. I see that you have
Yeah.
a nice list started already.
Yeah, but it's both sides. There's a couple more on there that I haven't got. That's probably 95% of everything I've gotten. I kind of left a few off, like, Mosquito Alley, I left that one off.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah.
The next person that signed up from boards and committees, wanted to invite Carl Roth.
Carl Roth, 8031 Island Drive, and I'm here on behalf of the Port Authority Board. We have a more extensive piece that we wanted to talk to you guys because we think there's more discussion, but we knew you were going through the budgeting process now, so we thought we at least ought to give you some initial teasers, if you will, on what we've learned so far. But I think pretty much from our last board meeting, we think we have a recommended direction that we think the council should consider. So hence for tonight. And again, I don't plan on taking a lot of time, but any questions you have, I'd certainly be happy to answer. So one of the things that we've learned is that the current process isn't working. We got the original permits in 2007, it's 2020. We haven't made any progress. We had to have those permits to do anything at all, but where we are is that to get the funding and what we need, there has to be a focused effort to do that, and we haven't had that here to date. So the other thing that we found is that certainly the residents are hesitant to self-fund such an effort, which is a big burden that the council, this council, and perhaps the previous council I know have had a problem with. So there's really been no good explanation as far as what are the benefits for the community by doing dredging as we have known it. So what we do know is that from conversations that we've had at the county and with other federal agencies, we're well positioned because we have permits in our hands. Additionally, what we've learned is that Pasco County, Port Richey, and even the state of Florida have no vision for the coastal area in our county. And we were surprised by that. We thought we would look at that more as a resource that we could build on, economic development, those types of things, but it just doesn't exist. And the other thing that we've learned is that coastal and estuary restoration and resiliency, something that's bandied around by the people that are getting the monies now, is the way we should start looking at this instead of just a dredging initiative. So with that type of redefinition, we believe that there's going to be more access and better access to funding based on what we've seen. One example is Crystal River. Same size as we are, within a couple hundred as far as the population. They've sourced the majority of their funds from the state, 95%. So that's just one source. There's a multitude from what we've learned. So we just wanted to kind of let you know about that. So what we believe is that we need to realign our approach, just a whole different direction. And that's what we really want to talk about and figure out what that is when we can get on your schedule with a little more time. The key thing here in conversations with the counties and some preliminary discussions with Newport Richey is that we truly believe that the coastal waters, including the Cody River, could really be an economic engine for our community if we would look at it that way. And as I mentioned earlier, it's not currently being done. So that's what we want to go after. For us personally, in Port Richey, we've got some fundamental problems with, we think, in the water quality area, with algae, red tide potentially coming in. And these, from what we learned at the state level, is a big negative for tourism. And as you know, traditionally, tourism is Florida's #1 source of economic revenue coming in. The other thing with Port Richey is our stormwater system is 40 to 80 years old. And if you look at the south side of the river, that's older. The north side of the river is 50s and 60s. If you go to Sand Pebble, that's the most contemporary, which is 80s. And by the way, that's when stormwater standards were established in Florida, was not until the 80s. So everything we have, or the majority, is much older than that. Also, as you know, much of our property is susceptible to storm damage. So anything that we can do to rectify that puts us in a better position. Also, the National Flood Insurance Program, Port Richey, we're rated a 7, Pasco's a 6. Both of those are below average as far as the National Flood Insurance Program. So if we were able to improve that from where we are to 15% discount to our citizens, every citizen that required flood insurance, if we got it up to average, would be 25% discount. Everybody benefits. So you've got a real personal driver for people in the community as far as what could be an improvement for us overall. As I mentioned, there's a lot of players in this puzzle. There's a lot of pieces, and we can go over those at a later point in time. But I think the main thing that we wanted to share with you tonight is that we would recommend that as we talk about going forward in this area, that we should think about this as a restoration or resiliency effort, nothing to do with dredging. It may be a piece or a part, but it's not the picture. And crafting that vision, we believe, is the important part for Port Richey to undertake. The permits that we have could be certainly a jump starter to help us do stuff along that area, so that's key. So we're well positioned in that area. One of the things through all the discussions at the federal, state, and other levels, water quality is an important component of this. And this is one of the reasons why we wanted to get in front of you, is that there are currently no comprehensive water quality assessments done in the Cody River Basin or along the coastal area. So that may be a potential area if we had some budget for that. If Pasco County and Newport Richey were doing some things, we were a piece of that puzzle, that may be something to consider. Also, we believe that we're at a point now that we should designate a council member and the city manager to work with the Port Authority Board down this path. So, and then along with this, as what we have seen, is that when we've talked about some of the concepts in the community, people are really fired up about it. So those are some of our initial recommendations. Wanted to lay it out, but most importantly, try to schedule a more serious time at when we're through the budget, maybe. So that, if there's anything.
Thank you, Mr. Roth.
Bet.
Those are all the comments from our boards and committees. At this time, I wanted to move on to comments from our city manager, and I wanted to invite Lynn Sossaman.
Thank you, Mayor. Got a couple of things tonight to talk with you about. Some would tie into previous board meetings where you and the council members have brought have brought up some projects. Like I said, previous meetings, you brought up several projects. One of them is Nick's Park, and I have worked and met with an engineer who's been on the project for a while. His name, he's with Ayers Engineering, and he's also in the process, based on what we've talked about, of looking at a more comprehensive approach, not just the boat ramp there at Nick's Park, but also other things that he can include in that to send that waterfront overlay district. And I've encouraged him to do so and bring those back. So he's going to be sending me a proposal, if you will, that I'll be able to bring back to this city council sometime in the near future, so you can decide if you want to move forward in that direction. So he's well underway with that. I met with him earlier in the week. Then I've also informed you at a previous meeting that Dewberry Engineering, who have had the responsibility for the channel dredging project. Initially, they had 1, 18, and 26A. This because of the dollars and cents that were involved in the previous bidding that was done. I think it was bid twice. It came back pretty much the same. The board decided to eliminate channel 18. So he's done that. I've got the draft of that, of his plans and specifications. I had a conference call with him earlier today with Sean Uhas, and what we have done is plugged in dates to when we would be able to, well, as you probably know, since we're anticipating getting Restore Act funds back from Pasco County to replenish what we would spend up front, because it's a reimbursement process, as you know, with Restore Act. So we've got those funds that you set aside in the past, and what we would do is look to have a 30-day process once Dewberry gets the finished product, if you will, back to me, hopefully, if not by the end of this week, first of next. So what we'd like to do is then go ahead and forward that on to Pasco County. I've been in contact with the county assistant administrator who's involved in it, and also the engineer that is involved, in a Restore Act coordinator. And they've all said to work through, well, the assistant administrator said to work through the engineer as well as Restore Act coordinator. So once I get those plans back with the dates that we agreed upon today, what we'd like to do is actually publish, if the county approves, the actual bid documents around the 28th day of September, if you will. Then we'll leave them published for about 3 weeks. We'll load it up on something called BidNet, and we'll also, obviously, for those who might want a hard copy, if you will, have them available here. Then we'll open bids over around the 21st day of October, sometime mid-afternoon, right after lunch, and that would give us time then for bring them in, like say 1 o'clock, open them at 2 o'clock, and then obviously our city attorney, Jim, will be there, I'll be there, Sal will be there. Hopefully he agreed to these dates that I just ran out to you. I believe we've got plenty of time to accomplish all of that, because the key is to get the stamp of approval from the county. They've already, based on previous action of this board, they've actually already given that stamp of approval. They've already sent in the appropriate information and the modification, if you will, to the MYIP. That's the multi-year implementation program. So all those things have been accomplished, and so we're moving forward. Probably give the contractor about 180 days to perform. I'm back and forth with the engineer on that. I want to make sure we don't shortchange the construction process and create problems down the pike, if you will, for either the contractor, the engineer, or for this city council. So those are the 2 big projects that I've worked on, besides a number of others that you saw last Friday when we sent out the weekly report to you. But I'll be glad to answer any questions relative to any of that or something else.
I believe you covered it at the last council meeting, but I just wanted to verify that because I know the city had reapplied to extend those permits so we can accomplish the bid to that dredge.
That is correct. We received the approval for the extension. It was to expire this October of 2020. It's been extended to October of 21. So that should give us enough time, particularly if we follow that path that I've chosen. And hopefully you'll agree with it tonight. If you do, then we'll move forward with that. But I think it's a good process. It gives us plenty of time to get the county's approval so that we can get reimbursed after spending the amount of money we're going to be spending. And it will also give the potential bidders the ample time to put their projects together and submit it so that we can review it, bring it back to you, and award a contract.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
With no other questions that I can see, I wanted to, if it's okay, Mr. Sossaman, you're all done?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to move on to comments from City Council. I'm going to start to my right this time.
I'm very encouraged to hear Mr. Sossaman's report. It seems like this dredging issue has gone nowhere, and I'm very pleased to hear, that report. I liked for this council with our Port Authority Board to actually get on board. If we could have a workshop, whatever it takes. We have a board that appears to be very involved, very active. I love hearing Mr. Roth give his report, but I really like to see this council listen more to our Port Authority Board, what the citizens have to say, and let's keep this moving, keep this afloat. Very, very impressed. And again, whatever it takes, if a workshop, Mr. Sossaman being present at this workshop with the Port Authority Board, whatever it takes, I like to see this kept moving along.
Thank you. Mr. McCleary?
Echoing what Mr. Kinsella said, I also want to make sure we keep up momentum with the Port Authority Board. I would like to see a workshop sooner rather than later to make sure we maintain our momentum. I can see it kind of building here, and I don't want to lose it. I know we're in budget season, but we all have other days in the week too that we can devote to this as well. But we're working our way through, but I definitely want to see something happen sooner rather than later. I can volunteer myself. Actually, I did have a question. I thought council members could not be on boards. Is that correct, or?
I'll check it for you tomorrow, but
Yeah.
I believe they can't. They can only be the liaison.
Yeah, okay, so it would be a liaison.
On boards.
Yeah, correct.
I'll check that, though. I'll let you know. Pretty sure that's the case.
But yeah, I definitely echo that, and I definitely want to keep the momentum going. As far as the list here, again, it's I think there's a lot of potential on this list, and I'm not sure how we can best start addressing these. I know it was a question of how best to narrow down this list or get the citizens' input. Maybe this is some other kind of item we put on an agenda for further discussion in future meetings to try and limit this down, work with this committee to figure out a way to do this. I'm kind of at a loss myself as the best way, especially with COVID and all the separation. I was thinking it would be great at a city event or something to try and have a voting, but obviously that's not going to be happening anytime soon. So I also would like to keep the momentum on this because they're working very hard, and we should support all of our boards and committees as much as possible. Circling back to another item that was brought up regarding Old Post Road, I believe we had spoken previously, actually in April, that we were looking to put in speed bumps, but we're waiting for the construction activities to stop in Amelia Bay before the speed bumps were put in. Was that the intent, or am I incorrect on that?
No, sir, you are correct. We were waiting for the trucks not to damage the speed bumps because, of course, the city's going to have to purchase this either pre-made or poured. Also, we're going to have to shut the street down for about 3 days. So instead of putting the money out and then having to go back and put the money back out again, we did speak with Avila Bay. They believe that they're going to be finished right about March or April of next year. They'll be completely done.
Oh, wow, that's a long time. That's quite a long time. What about putting police to, are they still part of the typical patrol path? Is it just a coincidence that we didn't see them, or, which is very possible, I mean.
Yeah, it's still part of the patrol. Maybe, I can't explain why.
Yeah,
we haven't
just
seen anybody.
happened to be, okay. All right, that's all I had.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to touch base on the boards and committees. In my humble opinion, I think that dredging is probably the #1 issue or topic that's going to come up in this city in the next near future. My concern, and I do want to put a workshop together as well. I think that's a great idea. The concern is I wanted to wait until we have a full-time city manager, because I think the city manager is going to be a key part of this, moving for that project from beginning to end. So that would be my only concern with doing a workshop now, as opposed to in a few months once we have a more permanent city manager. But I do like the idea of a workshop. And I think that committee's doing a fantastic job flushing out some of the issues that's going to come up with the dredging issues. And with water quality, which I think has been kind of overlooked by everybody in terms of what we need to be looking at within the community. In terms of the names, I really like it. I think it's the one of the best uses for social media is to talk about some of this and be able to have people's input. So, I think it's a great use of social media to be able to look at some of these names and kind of flush some out. I see a bunch on here that I think would be appropriate, so it's going to be a issue of personal preference or community preference. The traffic pattern on Old Post is kind of an interesting issue because the city's undergoing a lot of changes in the next couple of years. One of those changes, I believe, is going to be the Ritchie Road extension. And my thought on that is I think that once that Ritchie Road extension goes all the way through to Old Post, it's going to change the traffic pattern. And hopefully at that time we'll be able to do a traffic study. And that may be the time to address whether or not we want to put speed bumps in and where they go once we put them in. Because like I said, if there's a new T intersection into Old Post Road, I think it's going to change the traffic pattern. And the speeds on those roads and the traffic patterns, I think, are going to have to be readdressed as part of that project. That having been said, in the short term, I used to see traffic details out there, and I thought that was really the best way short term. So I would encourage the police department to follow up with that. And that's pretty much all I had. So I wanted to thank you guys and pass it on to Councilwoman Searle.
It's really positive to see the Port Authority doing its work right now. So I thank Carl Roth for your efforts in that. After 4 years sitting up here, seeing some positive direction for the dredging project is a very, very good thing. Maybe we can get some answers for some people. I think that's a wonderful thing, because I don't think anybody's ready to foot that bill on their own, especially individuals and residents on their own. So we do need a lot of help in that, and I think we're moving forward on that. I agree with the workshop. I do think that we should wait until we have a permanent city manager, since that is such a big issue for this little town. The speed bumps on Old Post Road, I live in that area. I totally understand and are sympathetic to the residents that live there. This Avila Bay project has been terribly disrupting to everyone who lives up there, the speeding, the problems with that. And the isolation of the area makes it harder for our police officers to really patrol that area. I would love to see an increase in that sort of thing. That would be good, and I'd like to see their presence a little bit more obvious, because it seems like in the last month or so we haven't seen too many of it. And I know it's hot outside, but we still like to see them. I would like to see speed bumps studied for more than just Old Post Road. I think Bay Boulevard is a problem also. So when we do this, I would like to take that into consideration also, because the people on Bay Boulevard suffer pretty badly from some of the stuff that goes on there too. So otherwise, I think we're moving forward, and we're looking at the things that are important to the people that live here and the residents. So I think this is a good thing. So I encourage us to keep moving in a positive fashion. So thank you.
Thank you. And there's one thing I did leave out in my opening comments. One of the things that I did do recently, actually right before COVID, is I know that the county has some projects for maintenance dredging that are just south of us in that Woodlands area and a little bit north of us as well. So I did go to their meeting where they had people from the general public, they had engineers that put on presentations. And I did that in large part to see what some of their issues are, as we're going to experience the same issues because it's really the same area, and to see kind of where their funding is. And I, if I recall, a lot of their funding is, I think some of it was Restore Act money as well. So I'll continue to monitor that because I think that is going to have some kind of bearing, or at least we can learn from how they're able to meet the demands for those maintenance dredges, which are just immediately north and immediately south of us, and some of those same type areas that we have that need those maintenance dredges. So, and Mr. Roth, I would encourage you to, if you have any additional information from those meetings, to kind of utilize that for your committee as well. I just wanted to point that out to you. That's all I had for comments in the comment section. I wanted to move on. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll pass that over to you.
Mr. Dittmer's on the phone.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot. I didn't see him.
You forgot about me.
Yes, sir. I apologize.
I didn't forget.
No problem, thank you. One of the things that you bring up, Mr. Mayor, was I had the Richard Road extension on my agenda here to bring back up. We definitely need to keep that on the front. It's going to make a big difference. The second item was we discussed last week the signage at the DMMA site. I was wondering if anything was done to help traffic flow from getting blocked by that sign.
No, sir, it wasn't. I went out there personally, looked at it. To move the sign is futile because of the way it's set up. To clear the fence, you have to go further in, actually doing it myself in a city vehicle. To actually see westbound down Grand Boulevard, you actually have to pull further than you would to look down the fence or the sign. So it's harder to see westbound than it is eastbound. And I mean, we could move the sign back 3 feet, but you still have to clear the fence. So there's still enough roadway there to keep you out of Grand Boulevard. The stop sign and the line that was initially set, I have no idea when it was set or who set it. It is further back. You could, if you stop at the stop sign to do it legally, you can't see through the fence, you can't see through the rib house that's next to it. So you actually have to pull further into the egress of the road, but once you clear it so you could see west, you're more than clear of the DMMA site and the sign.
Okay. So you're saying there's really no alternative at this point?
Yes, sir, there is. We can move the sign back, but it's manpower. We can do it if that's what council wants. We can move it back 3 feet, or we could see if we can attach it to the fence.
That's going to be my suggestion, is attaching it to the fence.
We'll have to look and see if the fence will support it, sir. It's a PVC fence.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Thank you, Councilman Dittmer. I'll move on to the consent agenda, and I was looking for a motion.
Motion for consent agenda?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The next item on the agenda is going to be council business item. The first item is going to be consideration of public works utility surplus equipment. And I'm going to pass that over to Mr. Sossaman for an introduction.
Thank you, Mayor. There's 4 items on it, and as you can see from what's been submitted from our Public Works Department, we've got several things like a diaphragm pump, terrain mower, Tiger Cub mower, and a weed trimmer, and all of them are inoperable. Sean's been here for 6 or 7 months, and he's been in the process of going through what we have back there to try to make sense out of it and get it organized. And going through that process, he's found these items. I can't declare them surplus, but you can. And there may be some interest in acquiring them from somebody who wants to tinker or work with them. But from our perspective, since they're not working, we recommend that you declare them surplus, and we'll try to dispose of them.
Thank you for the introduction. At this time, I'm going to open this up for either discussion and/or motion with council.
I'd like to make a motion that the items mentioned be classified as surplus and get rid of them.
Second.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Do we have a backup for that diaphragm pump, which I think, do we use that for flooding? Is that what that's used for?
No, yes, ma'am, I actually have 3. That is, I have no idea when it was purchased. This was actually found when we were cleaning out the warehouse, affectionately known as Loophole Hall. This was stuffed in the back that actually Tom McCann, my foreman, didn't even know when it was purchased. So yes, ma'am, we have 2 backup, or actually 2 backup, and I plan on purchasing a 3rd.
Okay, excellent, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. At this time, we have a motion and a second. Before we put it to a vote, I wanted to take any comment from general public. I did have one person that's signed up. I'd like to invite Bill Haddis to the podium. Is it Harris? I'm sorry. I thought those were T's.
Okay, you know my name now, Bill Harris.
Mr. Harris, welcome.
1808 Broadleaf Court, 34655. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I know y'all are in the budget phase of the council. I have a property on Siesta Lane, 6141 Siesta Lane, that I'm in the process of developing. I want to build another building. And before I do the building, I'd like to have somebody come out, well, actually it has come out, Sean's come out and looked at the road and actually improved it somewhat, but about 900 feet of Siesta Lane to the dead end needs to be improved. It's dirt, and poor quality dirt. And I figure if I'm gonna improve that lot too, I'd like to be able to improve the road at the same time. And if that's possible, we could get it in the budget, or at least think about it. Is this the right time to do that? The right place?
Thank you. And some of those inquiries too may be better suited for, normally the budget proposal comes from our city manager. So those are the types of inquiries you may want to send to him to see whether or not it's appropriate for the budget.
Okay.
Okay. And then normally they present the budget to us.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. And were there any other comments or questions about item 3, which was consideration of public works utility surplus equipment? Seeing no hands, at this time, if there's no further discussion amongst council, I'd like to put it to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. I'd like to move on to the next item, which is the police department impound surplus, and I was going to pass it over to Mr. Sossaman.
Actually, Mayor, with your indulgence, since directly across from me is Police Chief Cyrus Robinson, he made this request, and I agree with him. He's got, as you know, we've got 6 cruisers on order now for delivery sometime, hopefully within the next 30 to 40 days. And so those are going to be coming, and he's got about a dozen different vehicles that he's described in an email that's attached that he sent to me. So if the chief would like, or Captain Koch would like to expand on it, they know why our impound yard is fairly full. If you've been on that side of City Hall, you'll see it readily. So Will, I'd like to recommend, I concur with the chief and the captain that you move forward, and then we can get Tampa Machine Auction to auction them off, and maybe we can make a few bucks.
The vehicles that are putting up to the council are not patrol police vehicles. They're vehicles from the impound lot that we're taking in, and now to the point that they're ours, and so we can turn them over to you. So they're not law enforcement vehicles.
Thank you.
I'm thinking we're not going to cover the cost of the 6 new cruisers, huh?
Yeah, probably not, no.
Okay.
With that, I was going to open it either for comment or any motions amongst council.
Motion to sell the vehicles?
Second.
before we vote, there's been a motion and a second. Any comments from the general public? Seeing no hands, at this time we'll put it to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. The next item on the agenda is first reading of ordinance 2675 regarding golf carts. And I was going to actually pass it over to our city attorney, Mr. Matthew.
Thank you, Mayor. Before I read do the first reading by title only, this is the golf cart ordinance. Behind it is the resolution. That'll be passed after the second reading. I just had it there. And when we come to the second reading, after I read that, we'll then do the resolution. And going forward, any minor things you want to change, you most likely can do by resolution. So I'm going to read what is now ordinance number 20-675, first reading by title only. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Port Richey, State of Florida, amending the City Code of Ordinances, Chapter 36, Traffic and Vehicles, Article 5, Golf Carts, Section 36-163, Regulation of Golf Cart Operation, and Section 36-165, Golf Cart Registration, providing for severability, inclusion code, and an effective date. Looking for a motion.
This time I'm going to pass it over to council for discussion and/or motion.
Motion to approve ordinance 20-675.
Second.
Right now we have a motion and a second. Any comments from the general to council business item 6, discussion of reopening the city park restroom facilities. I was going to pass this over to Mr. Sossaman for an update.
Number 6, that's number
I think you missed.
That's 7. 6 is,
Oh, 6. But it's still the park restroom facilities.
No.
no, 6
Said
is leasing of the new police and fire truck.
Not my book.
Your book?
You got the wrong book.
You got the special package, I think.
I did. You guys are having fun with me tonight, huh?
Oh, because the front of the agenda, but back here, it actually, oh, wow, how about that?
So we'll go on to discussion of leasing new police vehicles and fire engine for the next item on the agenda, and I'll pass it to Mr. Sossaman for opening.
Thank you, sir. What we're looking at now is going through the budget process. We found out that we had more money in pennies for Pasco than what we initially thought. As you know, that fire truck would cost us $535,000 in round figures. It's to lease it for with the lease purchase for 9 years would cost about $79,000 in round figures and interest. The vehicles that we have on order, and I'm not saying not buy the. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, now I can.
No, yeah, good.
Much better, thank you.
Yeah, let me start back again. The fire truck would cost us about $535,000. We still want it. It's to be delivered sometime by November. The 6 police cruisers will be delivered sometime either in late September or early October, and we still want to purchase those. You've approved each of those items for acquisition. The question would be that since we've got about $1.1 million in penny for Pasco funds, I'd like for you to consider, rather than spending another $79,000 to lease purchase for 9 years the fire vehicle, that's $535,000. I want you to consider tonight positively and to actually acquire it outright and get cash. The police vehicles, that one is a little bit different. Obviously, we're getting 6, and we think that based on the 2.7% interest rate, that we would spend about $12,000 and change, just under $13,000 in interest over 3 years on those 6 vehicles. You could also lease purchase that one. That would still not negatively, well, obviously it's going to have a negative impact because it would be reducing the amount of pennies for Pasco that we have. But we'd be getting another tranche in this coming year that starts October 1. That replenishment would still put you around $1 to $1.1 million in that fund. Because what I've talked to staff about doing is having something that I refer to as a vehicle replacement program. Going forward, for instance, rather than having to buy 6 vehicles for police at one time, could probably put you in a position to buy 2. Same thing, it still put us in a good position with our fire trucks, save us that interest, and you've got the wherewithal to do it. I just wanted to make sure that in full transparency, they give the board this opportunity for consideration of either continuing with the lease or else to acquire outright the fire trucks and maybe also the police vehicles. And I'm not saying, so anybody gets consternation, we're not saying don't acquire them, let's continue to move forward with that. It's just the vehicle on how we get there.
Thank you. I did have a question for you on that issue. I know that in the next budget cycle and in the very near future, we need some vehicles for the utilities and water department. If we were to pay, for example, cash for that fire engine, would that leave us enough money to where you'll be able to get the appropriate vehicles for the other department?
Yes, it would. I've working with our budget person, if you will, George Zetline, and we know that we would still have over $1 million in that fund if we spend the cash, $535,000 in round figures to acquire the fire truck.
And the other thing I think the council discussed way back when we did the police vehicles is the 6 cars was just to kind of play catch up, and we still need 2 a year. Will that still put us on track to be able to afford 2 a year, even if we spend that money up front on the fire engine?
It would, yes, because you still have the opportunity to lease purchase those vehicles that Public Works and Utilities would need, because they need some utility bodied vehicles. We need a new crane truck. That's probably the big ticket item. We just need something that would be sufficient enough, if you will, to lift some of those lift stations that are really heavy, some of the older ones. That are also not, they're deeper. Our current crane vehicle won't handle them, unfortunately, so we have to call in reinforcements. That costs us money. So Sean has been exploring that with me and with George, as well as the acquisition and through either outright purchase or a lease arrangement on those other vehicles for Public Works and Utilities.
Thank you. At this time, I wanted to open it for discussion, and I wanted to kind of open the discussion. One of the things that is nice about this particular city is we don't really owe a whole lot of money. And that's a great position to be in as a small city. I think that the big ticket item is the fire truck, which I think the interest over the course of the 9 years was right around $80,000, $79,000 I think was the calculation. So I would think that we should strongly consider just purchasing that fire truck outright, which would still leave around $500,000 in the coffers for Penny for Pasco for other vehicles, and we should still be in pretty good shape. So, and as it relates to the police vehicles, the interest I think is low enough to where if we are going to purchase something outright, I would think that the fire truck would be first up in terms of consideration. So that's my thoughts and my opinion, and I wanted to pass it to council for other opinions or comments.
Mr. Mayor, I agree with you on that part. That big ticket item, let's go ahead and purchase it and save in the long run with that interest. But I agree with that recommendation.
Thank you. I was going to pass it to, I don't want to forget about our Vice Mayor, Mr. Dittmer. Did you have any comment or opinion on this particular item?
Well, I think actually paying for the fire truck makes the most financial sense. That's probably the way I'd also recommend going.
Mr. McCleary, did you have an opinion one way or the other on this?
I have no objection to paying for the fire truck outright. The question I actually had was with respect to the police vehicles. We're assuming a 2-car replacement cycle with 18 cars. Basically, it's a 9-year replacement cycle for your full fleet. I know we were originally speaking, we were looking at these vehicles, we said that they have a 6-year useful life. So I'm coming up with a 3-year delta now on our replacement cycle. That provides an issue. I don't want to get back in the same condition where we have cars falling apart and it's causing more maintenance. Is the 2 vehicles per year an accurate replacement cycle for our police cars? Or was the 6-year useful life incorrect when we were speaking earlier?
2 years is trying not to break the bank, if you will. Three vehicles a year was what the captain and I had spoke about. He's a little more familiar with the cycle here for replacement of the vehicles, so that we can get to the point where at the 6-year mark, if we decide to outright get rid of the vehicles, they still have life left in them, if you will, in order for, say, another agency that's in need of vehicles at roughly 70,000, 75,000 miles or whatever it is on them, will be able to get some use out of them, and we'll get a higher return in regards to reimbursement on those vehicles. If we let them go to where they are right now, wind up at Tampa Bay auction and getting practically nothing. We're just trying to build the fleet back up to where it should be.
Is what's under consideration now just for the fire truck or for the police vehicles or both?
I think we consider everything.
You could, unless our attorney disagrees, but you could take them separately. I think Mr. Kinsella, as well as the mayor, has indicated that it makes, and Mr. Detmer, and also Mr. McClary, that it makes perfect business sense, financial speaking, to acquire outright the fire truck. That's the big ticket item, $535,000, adding another $79,000 or so to it. If you wanted to continue to lease purchase the 6 police vehicles, you could do that. That's only about $12,000 in change over 3 years in interest payments, and the rate's about 2.702% interest.
You can't get lower.
No, so it's almost impossible unless they would give us the bank rate, which is what, penny a quarter for 1%.
I'm all for the fire engine. I think we should reevaluate the police vehicles, how best to address that with a replacement cycle that's more in line with our needs.
Well, the question is whether or not we can afford 3 year with Penny for Pasco. I don't know the answer to that question, or if anyone's even looked at it.
Well, the police vehicles we could lease at any time. The interest rate on it is low, so that comes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, right now it is, but
Well, yeah.
a year from now, 2 years from now,
you're going to be roughly the same. You're in perpetually low interest rates probably for the foreseeable future.
So the question is whether or not we can just outright buy police vehicles, even though we've leased these 6. Next year, if we wanted to, in the year after, whether or not we can outright purchase 2 or 3.
Right. If you lease purchase the 6 vehicles now at the rate we've got, 2.7%, as Councilman LeClaire has said, you can't hardly get any less than that. So that's a great rate. So I mean, I wouldn't turn my hand over for that, unfortunately. We will get another tranche of money, and what I said earlier, you've got somewhere $1.1 to $1.2 million right now today in pennies for Pasco funds. And of course, those are restricted for different things. That's why I said if we took half of that, that still leaves you $500,000. Plus, after October 1, you're going to get another $500,000 in round figures, penny for Pasco. So that bumps you back up to the 1 million figure, so it wouldn't have a disastrous effect on those public works / utility vehicles that we would need. Now, if you wanted to leave that full $235,000 down on top of it, so that you would have about $1.3 million and change, that's perfectly doable, and I wouldn't argue that point at all, because I think it obviously gives you more leeway.
I'd rather keep the cash on the police vehicles in our pockets and lease as long as you can at 2.5%, 3%, even 3.5%. Lease it all day long, and then if it starts getting at 4 or 5%, which probably isn't going to happen for quite a while, then you have cash in your pocket that you can start buying stuff.
I agree. So I think what I'd be looking for is a motion to purchase the fire truck outright and to leave the police vehicles in the lease arrangement that they're in now.
May I make a comment?
Yes.
I think it's a really excellent idea to go ahead and purchase the fire department. And I think if we're going to do the police cars, when we're leasing them, we also have a maintenance agreement with whoever we're leasing through. And that is a big ticket item for the police department budget, is their repairs on these vehicles. We've been trying, for the 4 years I've been in office, to rebuild our structure and our fleet and our vehicles. And this seems like the best opportunity for us to do that and finally get some of the vehicles that we need for our utilities department. So I agree with the purchase and the lease.
A question on the vehicles. I thought the purchasing of the 6 vehicles, that included the maintenance. There was a maintenance package.
Exactly, if you're leasing them. purchase lease
Correct.
I
contract.
should say, we're purchasing them the whole
Purchase,
time. It's
yeah.
financing them versus.
Yeah.
Yes.
so.
Not really leasing, we're financing.
Yeah, we're financing them. We're purchasing them no matter what, is whether we're financing or
Exactly.
paying them cash
But we
outright.
still get the contract for repairs.
correct.
And I think that
Correct,
is a
yes.
big thing, that these guys need to have cars that we can get repaired reliably. And I love the idea of having a car that we can resell in the future when we have not been able to do that with any of our police cars now because they are just worthless.
I mean, basically, we're paying inflation rate for a depreciating asset. It makes perfect sense to
Exactly.
lease it.
Exactly. So I make a motion that we do that.
Okay, so to clarify, the motion is to pay cash for the fire truck at the $535,000 and to continue to lease the police cars, at least the 6 that we have now.
Exactly.
Second that.
Before we put it to a vote, I wanted to open this to the public, if anyone had any comment. Reverend Spalding first, please.
Sandra Spalding, 8612 Green Street. Definitely, we need to buy the fire truck. As far as the leasing of the police cars, I've never been crazy about leasing things because to me, it's like paying rent. You wind up having a drawer full of receipts and nothing at the end, where if you purchase it, you can always sell what's left after you're not going to keep the car. But that's up to you guys. But definitely buy the fire truck.
Thank you, Reverend Spalding. Mr. Mueller.
Dave Mueller, 5439 Blue Point Drive. And Todd, you picked it right. This is a financing arrangement. It's called a capital lease. There's a bargain purchase option. We own the vehicle at the end. It's called a lease, but it's a financing arrangement. With regard to this city's needs, with regard to police, utilities, fire, I believe it is a good idea to probably spend the cash on the fire truck, the shiny fire truck. However, the acquisition of the 6 and then an ongoing 2 a year for a number period of time, you can effectively handle that through the cash flow from the penny for Pasco. So that should be no problem at all to be able to do that. And it preserves cash for other things, but there again, what Mr. Sossaman said, it's got to be for a particular purpose. So you're somewhat got your hands tied about the things that you can get, but I believe vehicles and trucks and equipment all qualify for that, if I'm right. One of the other things that you might give consideration to is knowing that we're heading into the budget process with a shortfall potentially in some areas. I'd be real interested to see where the miles are getting on these vehicles, how much is being ran, if you will, around the city versus officers taking the vehicles home. I know that's it's probably going to stick in somebody's throat as a tough call, but we're under significant pressure with this city, and I think no particular group should not be looked at and scrutinized for those kinds of opportunities, especially if the majority of the hours, or the miles that are driven on vehicles, if it's here around town on patrol versus commuting back and forth to home. And the potential to have a fewer number of vehicles and leave them, if we leave them here, those officers could just use that vehicle when they come on shift. It's just an idea. I know that we're all under financial constraints, and certainly any ideas that would help the city would be beneficial. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mueller.
May I comment on that?
I just wanted to, yes, go ahead.
If I'm not correct, is that not in our police union contract that they have drive-home vehicles?
You're absolutely correct. It is part of our union contract right now.
And don't we require those guys to be at least within 25 miles of Port Ritchie to work here?
I don't know if they have to, I'm not sure, there's some requirement on the
There
distance.
is.
They might have to pay beyond that, but it is part of our union contract, take-home vehicle.
And I believe we've done this study before, and we found that it was an interesting figure, but it wasn't financially a good idea to try and take the police cars and put them in the parking lot and wait for them to
Yeah,
go
I
less
can't help
than
you
that.
with that, Councilwoman. I know that hot seating, as it's known, that was before me, it had been a while before, but it is part of our union contract, something you negotiate.
And this hot seating also creates a lot of wear and tear on the cars because you have more than one driver on them.
Yeah, hot seating, sure.
Thank you. Mr. Mueller, you already spoke on this topic. I'm going to pass it to anyone else that wants to speak. Seeing no hands, we have a motion, we have a second. I'd like to put it to a vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. I'm going to move on to what's item 6 in the book, but actually item 7 is going to be discussion of reopening of city park restroom facilities. And I wanted to pass that to Mr. Sossaman for an update.
At the last meeting, Mayor, we discussed the opportunity of opening up the park totally, which would include on all the tables, bathrooms, and so forth. The board at that time decided, because we'd already had some information, we know that some parks, the county as well as Newport Richey had opened their bathroom facilities. Ours are still closed. Dade City, at the last report I got, they were still having their bathrooms and their parks closed as well. We did have some checks and balances made, if you will. Mr. Uhas contacted a counterpart of his over in Newport Richey to find out what their cleaning schedule was. As you'll remember, Chief Soroy recommended that they be cleaned almost hourly. And of course, I know Mr. Uhas presented the budget consequences that if we did that, which it's, I won't say it's impossible, it's a matter of time and money, as you all know. But we found out that Newport Richey is definitely not cleaning theirs every hour or even every day, if you will. So I know there's a liability issue. There's also, I guess, all kind of consequences. But it's still a matter that we followed the policy that was established by this council and your manager before me. So that's what we found out. Sean's here. He can probably answer any other questions that he may have not passed on to me that he did receive from some of the folks that he talked with in the other jurisdictions. So I'm sure he'd be glad to share that with you. We just don't want to look like we're condemning anybody else for their protocol and practices.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify, though, based on the current pandemic and where we're at, it's still your recommendation based on the protocol to keep the restrooms closed?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. With that, I'm going to open it to the council for any discussion.
Did we inquire with the county what the county's doing with some of their parks?
Yes, sir, I did. I spoke with Pasco County with the Parks and Rec, which actually ended up with Public Works because they're doing it. Speaking with Public Works, they are, in his words, trying to implement better cleaning. They are understaffed for doing this. They admittedly are behind on what they should be doing per the protocol for COVID-19. They have budgeted, I don't know how, I believe they're trying to get reimbursed for it, that they are actually offering very large vats of Clorox wipes for people to go in and clean themselves if they want to go in and take, if they're that worried about it. They said they haven't been able to modify their cleaning schedules. Newport Richey, the gentleman I spoke to, also somebody had inquired from the Suncoast, the local newspaper, about the same thing that I was inquiring about. They are attempting to clean every 2 hours, give or take, all their parks. Admittedly, I was told also very blatantly that they don't have the manpower either. And the parks were opened by the city manager in Newport Richey, so the staff not real happy about it, but we do as we're told. But like I said, they're struggling to at least try to speed up what they're doing, and they admittedly say they're struggling.
Thank you. I was going to open it. Any further comments or questions with the council? Vice Mayor Dittmer, the floor is yours.
Yeah, what is the standard operating procedure for cleaning? Do we do them clean twice a day, or what is the normal operation for cleaning?
Presently, we do a morning run, which we stock the bathrooms. And when everything was open, we stocked the bathrooms, we clean the garbage. My one person that actually does the parks will go back and monitor during the day when it's normally there. Right now, presently, he's also keeping up with the dog parks, mowing the grass and such like that. So his cleaning schedule right now is about once a day. When everything was open, right now he's monitoring, you know, all the parks, which would be 8 of them, including Cook. So he's monitoring those and keeping it up because we're shorthanded on Public Works Department. So we're monitoring the city with everything else, and my one person does all the parks.
Okay, thank you. And as far as, I'm pretty sure from what I've read that we can't really be held liable for any of this COVID things anywhere. Could we just post that these bathrooms are cleaned on the schedule that they are, and say, you know, use basically knowing that there's a COVID risk touching anything?
Can we direct that over to our city attorney?
There's a term for that. I put it in the same category as when you rent skis. You could sign it, but it would have little legal value, you know. Mayor, your opinion's probably, it would have very little. You're not going to waive responsibility by putting a sign up that enter at your own risk.
Well, my question is, Jim, I don't think you can be held liable for that from what I've read, unless you've heard differently.
Well,
Contracted anywhere.
There's debate going on now concerning immunity. You've probably seen that on the news, both the state and the federal level. No one's passed that yet. The federal government has not. As far as whether our carrier will pay for it, I don't know. Okay, this is a pandemic. Most insurance companies don't cover for that. So I'm not going to sit here and say there'll be none. I've actually checked, even regarding workers' comp's claims on COVID. They haven't yet made a decision on that yet. So I guess the answer is I don't know, and I suspect there will be, you know, some things about it, but I'm not going to sit here and say just putting a sign up that, you know, we're going to be any worse or better off either way. You know, it's too uncertain at this point in time.
My concern only was liability for the city, to tell you the truth, and as far as personal hygiene, I think people are pretty well aware of it, so that's how I feel about it.
Well, my thoughts, we have two areas that there's a lot of public activity, and that's Nick's Park, obviously, because of the boat ramp, but also the waterfront park with the dog park there, so forth. My thoughts are, let's give it a try, open up those two restrooms and see how, keeping up with it, the cleaning of it once a day, and see how that goes.
And if I'm
somebody could still say they got it from the bathroom.
And if I may, I just disagree. I think, and I love having the restrooms when they're open, accessible to the public, but I'm uncomfortable with liability issues, knowing that we don't have the resources to follow the standards. I'm uncomfortable with opening any of them until we know what our liabilities really are and whether or not we can at some point meet those standards, which may change soon. I know that, just an update, I think there's going to be a new administrative order for the whole court system moving us from phase 1 to phase 2, which may change some of those standards. And my recommendation would be to wait till we get to phase 2 to see if those standards change, and then readdress whether or not we can meet those standards for our bathrooms. That would just be my recommendation or my thought on it.
And when are those coming out?
The last I've talked to, just some people in the court system that have been working on it, I think they're trying to move phase 2 probably beginning of next month. Not September, but beginning of October. Was kind of the rumblings that I heard through the administration to the court system.
Well, my personal opinion is all or nothing. We don't open just 1 or 2 of them, and we either open it or we don't. But I think we should stay closed, mainly because the county County is struggling to keep up with it. I think that we can't keep up with it. And I think that it would be in our best interest to just go with the national idea and wait until everybody else opens up and this sort of thing goes on. They just opened the schools this week. It'd be interesting to see how that works out. And then maybe the public restrooms will come around in the next phase of the COVID virus. But I'm an all or nothing. We either open them or we don't. And it has to be the picnic tables and the dog parks and the playgrounds.
Mr. McCleary, any comments?
I'm kind of partial to opening the 2 bathrooms, Waterfront Park and Nix Park. Keep everything else closed, keep picnic tables closed because you're not encouraging, you're discouraging social distancing at that part. And just have the bathrooms themselves open. Come back and keep monitoring with Mr. Uhas and seeing how his team is operating with it. If he's saying the wheels are coming off the wagon, then we lock them back down again, but give an opportunity to try to bring some normalcy back to items. So that's my thought process.
I was thinking a lot along Nix Park only because recently seeing the activity there, the zoo it was, the amount of people using it last weekend, and not having that restroom facility available. And when I kept seeing a couple people disappear behind the structure, I knew exactly what they were doing. And it was almost like a continuous cycle with everybody jumping off their boat running behind the building. So trying to eliminate some of the other health issues that we have by at least opening up that one particular bathroom to allow the facilities, the public to use it, may help some. That's my thoughts on that.
And I guess to take it to the next level and convolute things even more, I think Monday through Thursday, probably not a whole lot of people down there. I think really the crunch time at Nix Park is going to be the Friday, Saturday, the weekends. The question is whether or not we can even afford to maintain those bathrooms just for a couple days over the weekend when there's a lot of people there. So that may be the discussion, not just which bathrooms, but when. Because I think I think while the parks are open, which is daylight hours, Monday through Monday, the entire week, I think is just out of the question. Whether or not we can or have the ability or capability or resources to do it for a couple days when we know there's going to be a crowd may be a different story. And I don't know the answer to that question. That's for probably our management and our department head to know those answers.
Yes, sir. I like the idea that you gentlemen are thinking about. The problem being is that my on-call staff, which is one person for public utilities and public works. Public utilities, we're doing the water and the sewer. Our public works people have 4 hours to do 8 parks on Saturday and 4 hours to do 8 parks on Sunday. So they're doing the trash on all the parks that are open. So you have one person that we're paying 4 hours overtime as it is right now to come in on Saturday to maintain the park so we don't have trash flowing all over the place. So now we're gonna have to come up with more money for these people to do it and to stay longer to make sure that Nix Park's clear, the Waterfront Park is clear. The biggest problem with Waterfront that we have now is the homeless. Usually even on the weekends with patrols. My one gentleman that does parks, that's his #1 job, is usually on Monday, Waterfront looks like somebody blew up in it. Because we have the homeless people going in doing God knows what. And usually the bathrooms are totally destroyed, so it takes him about 2.5, 3 hours to clean just Waterfront.
I think we just touched on a little bit of a different problem that we're having, in that we have homeless destroying our bathrooms at Waterfront Park over the weekend, and what can we do about that part too? I think that's a different discussion as well. Not that they're not intertwined, I understand that, but that's another issue that we may need to address.
Well, the one thing I would note is I believe it's our police department that closes the parks, probably for that very reason. You have some other issues going on, and I think they're
Are
well
they
suited
jumping
to
the
deal with
fence,
it.
or?
I believe you guys closed the parks, the police department, correct? And you guys open them as well?
Yes, typically in the morning we'll go through and we'll do the opening as far as opening the gate, unlocking the bathrooms, and just checking the physical security of the park itself, for any damage or anything that occurred throughout the evening. That's the extent of the opening.
And to close the park to make sure there's no people that are lingering behind, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So how are we getting our bathrooms destroyed where he's got to fix them for 2.5 hours over the weekend?
This is during daylight hours when the
Day-
park is
during
open.
daylight
Yes,
hours
sir.
they do? Oh,
We
okay.
have had, that's why there are cameras at Waterfront and at Nick's. Since I've been here, you can go in during the day and the picnic tables are out front, basically look like a bus stop. And they have been since Mr. Lepore, I believe, has been here about 6 years. And since they redid the bathrooms a couple years ago, that's been one of their hot spots. I know PD has been out there to stop some conjugal visits in the bathrooms.
The only other question that I had is whether or not there's any grant money out there that we can utilize. I know that there was some COVID money out there for example, I think fire department and so on and so forth, that can be utilized where we may be able to get reimbursed. I didn't know if that's a possibility.
I'll talk to Chief Soroy, and I know that application's still in process for that COVID-19 reimbursement. Can't remember if it could be used for bathrooms. I know we could use it for supplies, so that might help out some.
Okay. And that was just a question. I didn't know if anyone had looked into it. That having been said, I didn't really have any further comments or questions. I was kind of hit all the points that I wanted to make.
I guess what we need to know is the question, since we had two council members who indicated the reopening of the bathrooms in 2 parks, whereas others have said, what it looks like they're saying, leave it status quo as is, meaning all closed. So we just need to know whether we need to open up the bathrooms in those 2 parks tomorrow or this weekend, or should we leave them all closed?
Well, I think certainly we don't have a consensus, so I'll leave it open if anyone wants to make any motions at this point. But by consensus, I don't believe that I would agree to that.
I wouldn't agree to it.
So, but if there's a motion, then I'll put it to a vote.
I'd like to make a motion that we open 2 bathrooms to start as soon as we can, Nick's Park and Waterfront Park, and more so on a trial basis, see how it goes for the next couple 2-4 weeks and see how that goes.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Before we go any further, now that we have a motion and a second, I see someone signed up. Mr. Mueller, I'd like to invite you to the podium.
Dave Mueller, 5439 Blue Point Drive. Thanks for taking this seriously. I believe the world has got bathrooms that are open. Pasco County just went live with schools. My wife's one of them. Their bathrooms are open. Every restaurant in this city has got bathrooms open. There's a bathroom right behind me that's open that I'm sure gets cleaned every hour. I don't know. That was a joke. But the reality is, having a bathroom open allows for personal hygiene. Somebody can go in there and wash their hands instead of going around back and doing their business. Whether you like it or not, that's what's happening. I believe the rest of the world has taken on the challenge to move forward with this. And I would hate to see this city being called the ones that can't make a decision or figure out how to open a bathroom. I don't think that's the way you guys want to end up. Now, your utility guy here showed how a bureaucrat takes the position not to do anything. With a $60,000 a year person sitting in front of every bathroom, cleaning it after every use. Somebody took a lot of time to go through and make that analysis, but we need people here that can take the situation and make decisions of how we want to do things and to succeed doing that, rather than not doing that. I can sit here and give you 100 reasons why we can't do this and can't do that, but this city needs people that can move ahead with a decision to do the hard thing, make a hard choice. And I appreciate you guys giving that some consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Reverend Spalding?
Sandra Spalding, 8612 Green Street. If you're going to open your parks, you have to open your bathrooms. Otherwise, close your parks, and then you keep your bathrooms closed. What are people going to do if they're in the park and they have to go potty? Hello. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Spalding. Pastor Lord?
Leonard Lord, pastor at 8114 Leo Kidd Avenue. If some of you are like me and you're an older guy, and of course I've had to have some things because of prostate cancer, and to go anywhere and not have a bathroom is going to not be a very good thing. And being in a retirement area like this, that like they said, I don't think it's just wisdom to open up and not have it, because people are going to do something, and if they don't have what's there to do it with the bathroom, then we don't know what's going to happen. So just use wisdom, but I think sometime we need to do what we need to do. Lord bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Lord. Anyone else that's here? Seeing no hands, we have a motion and a second. To clarify, the motion is to open Waterfront Park and Nick's Park bathrooms while the parks are open Monday through Sunday, the entire week. And that's what the motion, that's what the second was, just to clarify. Is there any further discussion amongst the council before we vote? Hearing none, let's put it to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
And let's poll, because there's someone not here, make sure that we have the vote right.
The motion was to open Waterfront Park and Nick's Park's restrooms. I have Mary Tremblay as a nay, Vice William Dittmer as a nay, Councilwoman Jenny Sorrell as a nay, Councilman Tom McClary as a yay, and Councilman Tom Kinsella as a yay. The motion fails 3-2.
Thank you.
And to be clear on my vote, I just want to say, I think they should all be open. I don't believe this is a liability issue for the city.
Okay. With that, if there's no further discussion and/or motions, I would close it out for discussion this week. But before I close it out, I'll go around because I know that there's been a lot of discussion. Anything further?
No.
Mr. McCleary? Not from my seat.
No.
Vice Mayor Dittmer, anything further on this issue?
No, sir. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I'd like to move on to old business, and I'll start with the other side now, Vice Mayor Dittmer.
Just to follow up once again on our contact with the county on our Nick's Parks project. The city manager did do that. I had a hard time hearing if we did cover that, but that's on my agenda for all business.
Yes, Mr. Vice Mayor, that has been done. We're in good shape. I'll ask again, Mr. Dittmer, did you hear my affirmative on the fact that we have contacted the county, and I've been assured we're in good shape?
Okay, well, I'm still having a hard time hearing you, Len, so I'll follow up with you tomorrow. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Vice Mayor, was that the only item you had on old business?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Sorrell?
Oh, I want to thank Utilities for the new gates at Brasher Park. They look wonderful, and I think they'll be very helpful. I hope that they will help secure that park a little bit more. Our police officers were concerned about that park because of the gate system, so it looks absolutely wonderful. Thank you very much for that. That was all the old business I was concerned with. Thank you.
Thank you. The only old business that I wanted to address, and I hope it's the last time because I think we've been at it for a long time, is I know that we have the CAD system that was ordered. I know that the computers and everything was online, and I think there was a glitch with the county, and I didn't know where we were at with the glitch with the county's system coming into ours.
Yes, we're ready. All those things have been taken care of. The issue was brought up last week of an interagency agreement, which should have been taken care of at the beginning of this whole process. When we called them last week to find out what else is necessary to go live, they talked about an interagency agreement. When I came in, I looked through all the paperwork that was on the previous chief's desk. Didn't see anything. I had Captain Koch look to see if he had anything. He had everything but this interagency agreement. Administrative assistant looked for it, and we even had IT look for it. Turns out that the IT section from Pasco never initiated the document. So we had a phone conference with them Thursday or Friday of last week, and they assured us that we would have that interagency agreement at the beginning of this week, which we have not gotten yet. And we'd have to review it. The attorney would have to review it and sign it and send it back, and then we're good to go. So we're ready. It's
Very
just
well.
that one piece of paper.
And you have the computers ready to go?
Yes.
Okay. Very good. That's all I had for old business. I was going to pass it to Councilman McCleary.
Just to follow up, is that an agreement that has to go before us, thus another 2 weeks, or is that something that is just handled internal?
Most likely going to have to.
There we go. So there's the other 2 weeks.
I have to say, I thought we did that.
I thought we had an agreement put together as well.
I do too. I agree with that. I think there was something done earlier when we first started this whole process.
I'll take a look for it. I
remember when it was first starting again.
Yeah, I thought we
We had to
handled
have
it.
some kind of agreement with the county for them to even come in and start doing the process in the first place because it required so much revamping of our dispatch room.
Yes, I believe it was like a year ago, right at the beginning they did that. But if you call them, I'll check tomorrow. But the short answer is, yes, it would have to come here.
Can we handle that now, or do we have to wait 2 weeks?
You can't vote on a document you haven't seen yet.
So we're just voting on the document itself, even though it's just for the...
But you'd have to have the...
Technically, we have to read it.
See it
You have to
first.
read it, I have to read it. You
I
have
thought
to
you were a
vote on it.
lawyer.
Oh, I am.
Yeah, I don't think you would feel comfortable delegating it to Mr. Sossaman.
I just sign it. Don't worry about it.
No, but we have a city manager, chief of police, and attorney, too. So, I mean, it's not like...
You do have backup, yes.
Right.
Okay.
I have nothing further.
Backup's important.
I'll look at it real fast. I'm sure Len will
Okay.
send it over the day he gets it. But I'll check if we have signed it already. I thought we had, but we'll check.
That's all you have? All right, with that, it closes our meeting. I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Good night.
Well, have a good night. Thank you.
Mr. Dittman. Isn't that what